But did you recognize that was part of the wheel? That was a chunk of the wheel of embodying joy?
The chunk of the wheel of embodying a joy for you.
For me, right? So it started with recognizing that when you're in pain and you're focused on pain, that all you think of is like, oh, if I could just not be in pain, the heavens would open up. It would be fantastic. I wasn't in pain. The heavens didn't open up. It wasn't fantastic. I just took that misery, if you will, that agitation, and I just moved it to other aspects of my life. Right? So I moved it to worry for work, worry for money, picking little new arguments with you. And so...
Prosper.
Prosper. So I was like, so I recognized that, and I was like, wait a minute, I don't want that. So one piece of joy is recognizing joy in all aspects of my life. So don't just take my agitation and just move it. The goal is to dissipate the agitation to a point. I can't get rid of it all. I don't know if I can.
Of course you can.
Can you? It might just be part of me. Okay. So we'll say that I can. And it's really focusing on the happier side of things instead of the not happy side of things. So it's not saying like everything's gonna be perfect. It's not saying that I'm always gonna get my way, but I'm saying that I will focus more on the happiness in my life than the not happiness of my life. There was probably a more eloquent way of saying that, but in any event. So that was one piece of my, trying to figure out what does joy mean. The next piece was moving my body on a daily basis in a manner that works for me. And so that's hard for me because a manner that works for me is like yoga. I started rowing. It's not like these intense, go for it type exercises.
What you believe you should be doing.
Exactly.
But it's not what works for your constitution.
Exactly, because when I do those, I feel awful.
Right.
But I have to reprogram my mind for the little, you're weak, from a physical standpoint, or you're lazy, why, go harder. So it's that reprogramming, but that piece of saying, this is what works for me, and that's okay. And then the next piece is eating balanced. Which doesn't mean, again, that I'm never going to eat a cookie or I'm not going to eat pizza, but it's about eating in a manner that works for me. And, I'm I don't know if I'm like a bird, but I like a little bit of everything, right? So it's like our breakfast this morning. Give me a hard-boiled egg, some sausage, some avocado, some figs, a little bit of everything. Not too much, not too little. A muffin, right? And it was perfect. Homemade muffin. Right? So it's that's a piece. Put that in there. That's what works for you. And then the other piece, what was the other piece?
The other piece was
food, move my body, deal with the pain. Oh, don't let a destination be the destination.
Oh, right.
So, understanding that life is a journey, that saying applies to every aspect of my life. And so don't get into the car, get to a destination, get out and enjoy it. Don't get out and stay for 2 years and get comfy and, set up camp and then one day wake up being like, why am I still here? Right? Feeling complacent and agitated. And then it's so much harder and stuck. And it's so much harder to get up and get back in the car and continue the journey. So it's no, you absolutely get to a destination, get out, enjoy it, see what you've done, and then get back in the car and keep going.
Because there's more to explore.
Right. So that's my joy pie.
And your herbal medicine.
Oh, and my herbal medicine. Oh, right. Yes.
You found your ally.
I found my ally. Right. Because I couldn't remember my yes, that was it. So I have a tendency of leaning a bit more towards the melancholy. And so through trial and error for years now, right, we have found an herb that really does help me go opposite melancholy. So ensuring that I have lemon balm in all of my tea blends makes a huge difference to my mood and my outlook on possibility.
But I think, like, the allies are always there. I think now you have a new openness and willingness to see the light.
I think so. I think you're right, and that's another piece. But that is so. There's so many times that you embark on something and you're like, I'm gonna do it, and you don't do it, and it's not because it's big. And I think it also has to start
Everything's in the mind.
here. You know, you have to decide: do you really want to do it, and why are you doing it? So this time around, you know, of my many, I'm gonna do this. I knew that this was different.
Right.
I knew it was different. I knew I was going to embark on a new journey. I knew I got back in the car, right? I knew I did. I got back in the car, I turned on the engine, and I left because I could feel it inside me. I was like, this isn't like other times when I just kind of give, what's that saying?
Yeah.
When I just say it just because I know that's what I should say.
Right.
Like, oh, yes, Salima, I'm going to do it this time. No. I knew it because I didn't say it. I didn't say I'm going to do anything this time. I just started doing it. Because I knew I had to. I knew I had hit a point which I don't want to have to do anymore. But I had hit a point in which it had become detrimental to my health, to my happiness, to my family. And I wasn't willing to give up. I wasn't willing to just turn over and be like, that's it. This is life. I was like, no, this is not my life. This is not the life I signed up for. And so, yeah, and it took that argument in Mexico that we had to really for me to really see who I was becoming,
Right.
and decide if I wanted to keep moving in that direction.
Right.
With what it felt like between the two of us, what I felt like in my body, how I was interacting with Niles. And the answer was a resounding no. You never yell. It is extremely rare if you ever raise your voice in anger. And you did that day, and that was like a slap in the face. That it was like, are you hearing this? This is coming from some person who does not like yelling, who in an angry way, and never does it, and is yelling at you because is so frustrated with you and is so just like wants to take you and shake you. I know. And it wasn't lost on me. It was like, and I had to, and on that trip, that was probably, I don't know, maybe like 2 or 3 days into the trip. That day, I started making changes. That day, I asked you for help, and you gave it to me. I asked for a lifeline, you threw it, and I took it. And it was something so simple. Will you make me a salad at lunch? That's all I said. And you didn't give me like any grief about it. You were just like, yeah, of course. And from that day forward, I was making conscious decisions, and I was starting to piece together what joy meant for me. What does that look like? What feels good for me? And I think it's very specific to every person. I don't think that I can tell this to everyone and then they go and do the exact same thing and have the same results. Because I used to do that. Someone said, oh, this worked fantastic. I would go do the exact same thing. That shit didn't work for me. And I'd be like, what? Nothing works for me. It's not that nothing works for me. It's like you're not doing the work to introduce yourself to yourself, to find out what will work for you, right? Because we are all unique by design. And so something unique by design means that you have to study it to understand it specifically. So I have to study myself specifically to understand myself, right? And it's not always easy, right? You would think like it's me. I know myself. No, you don't. Until you sit down in those quiet moments. And for me, and this was another thing, for me, a quiet moment is not silence. For me, like today, a quiet moment was sitting in a bathtub listening to Roy Hargrove. That was a quiet moment for me that allowed my mind to just kind of go off. And when my mind goes off, as you know, I make pictures in my mind. I create worlds in my mind to help me understand what I'm doing, what I want to do. And so that was that, you know, that's those epiphanies for me. That's where those downloads come for me. And I think especially when you're in this space and people are always like, oh, you know, you're going to meditate and find this quiet, blah, blah, blah. And for some that might work, right? But it goes back to the point that you have to figure out what works for you, right? Because that has never worked for me, sitting up and closing my eyes. I would always say, I'm laying down. Because that sitting up, all I'd concentrate on is this is uncomfortable. This is uncomfortable. This is uncomfortable. And I never get to the juice, right? I never get to what I'm trying to achieve. I'm laying down. And it's, you know, when you hit on these epiphany moments, it's like, wow, right? But it's also, why, for me at least, why didn't you get that? Because this is the voice in my head. Why didn't you get it sooner? And it's like, slow down there, killer, right? It's like, stop with the judgment. It's not about why didn't you get here sooner. It's a journey. You got here exactly when you were supposed to, right? This is when I was supposed to arrive at this new understanding of myself. And I made the decision, and I am going to continue to make the decision of moving forward and listening to these downloads that I get and
following the instructions
to the best of my ability, right? Because I'm stubborn, right? I'm stubborn, and I'm pretty sure that my ancestors and spirit guides are frustrated with me often because I'm so stubborn. You know, I'm earth. I'm like grounded, and it doesn't always feel good. It feels good to be grounded. It doesn't feel good to have your feet in cement blocks. And yeah, that's it.